When you think of the S&P 500, it is the 500 largest companies within the United States. Now, me personally, I love investing in the S&P 500 in the VOO through Vanguard's funds. But overall, in today's video, we're going to be looking at it a little bit different and breaking it into individual stocks, looking at the highest paying dividend stocks within that S&P 500. Now, for a majority of people, the dividend yields are really what they're chasing. We know there are a ton of different ways to do this. And again, we want to focus on the largest US-based companies that are paying dividends and that also fall into that S&P 500. First one we're looking at is 3M company. MMM is the ticker symbol there. This is a $60 billion chemical and materials giant. If you haven't heard of 3M, look at any office supplies. Majority of them are created and really distributed by 3M. They have over 60,000 products in the industry, which is crazy, from automotive manufacturing, toolboxes, electrician, plumbers, wax, tape. It's kind of crazy. And now a lot of people are saying, including the financial advisor that works in my office, that 3M is poised for a massive breakout this year with a little bit of restructuring. And it's going to be crazy to see that in 64 years, they have consistently increased the dividend that they're paying out, which is the longest on Wall Street. And of course, the dividend yield of 3M is 5.7%. That's right. When you think of high yield savings accounts, about 5%, even a really high CD rate around 5.4%, 3M is coming in at 5.7%. And that is the lowest of the top 9 that we're looking at within this list. Coming in at number 8 is Crown Castle Inc., CCI. Now you'll notice this is a real estate firm that has some of the largest dividend stocks within the S&P 500 right now. Now, it is involved in a couple different kinds of real estate. Most of it is just kind of on the investment side, but it has over 40,000 cell towers and 90,000 fiber optic networks. So when you start thinking of real estate, you think of residential real estate, you think of commercial. Most people do not think about the nationwide telecommunications infrastructure that really everything runs on. When you think of your cell phones, that's what it runs on. It's kind of crazy to think that, and again, I personally kind of overlook things of that nature and what actually runs it. But this company has paid a 1.57 share starting in 2014, and they are currently yielding with Crown Castle Inc., the CCI, a yield of 5.9%, which is pretty impressive from a kind of real estate telecommunication company because of what they own. Now, coming in at number 7 is Pfizer. Now, you know from commercials, if you've ever watched really anything, Pfizer, of course, firing on all cylinders. Stock jumped almost 70% in 2021 with the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, as well as a lot of things that seem to be coming down the pipeline, especially when it comes to weight loss, medication, drugs, whatever it may be. But of course, there is a lot of risk associated with that. However, Pfizer has a very long tradition of paying out generous dividends. They boosted their dividends, which is kind of crazy, 68% higher than it was just a decade ago. And they are really, even though the stock is kind of down right now, the dividends are still there for big pharma. This is one that is trading lower. You can get in at a pretty good price. And they're paying a hefty yield of 5.9% on this Pfizer stock. Looking at our next one, which is Boston Properties Inc. Now, of course, Boston Properties, you might think, hey, this is just from Boston. This is a $10.3 billion market valuation with some of the largest publicly held developers within commercial real estate. So again, we had one company that was the towers, the fiber optics. Boston Properties, the BXP, is in a lot of the commercial real estate, which commercial real estate, I'm a kind of iffy on it right now, just because, of course, everything that went on with COVID-19, how many people are still really working from home, and how much utility is really in there and really going to be represented by the commercial real estate. That is really yet to be seen. However, Boston Property Inc. continues to pay a very high dividend yield of a 6.2%, which is kind of crazy. Now, following in its footsteps, Kinder Morgan Inc., or the KMI, this is a commodity pricing. Now, this is oil and gas, and it's a little bit different than we see like our Marathons and our Diamondback Energy. This has really made a big impact on the S&P 500, and they operate as a midstream oil and gas company, which has 83,000 miles of pipeline, 140 terminals across the United States. So it's not one of the massive, the marathon petroleum companies. It is more of the mid-level guy that is in there. Now it is close to 1.8 billion with an acquisition of the STX Mainstream, which bodes the dividend payout again of this one, Kinder Morgan Inc. at a 6.2. Then we start getting into AT&T Inc. That is right, ticker symbol on this one is T. I know a lot of individuals that do invest in this one. Within the last couple years, a big demand for, of course, modern technology, especially with so many people working from home. They had a massive restructuring in 2022, and they also got rid of the stake or the spinoff stake of Warren Brothers Discovery Inc. So they kind of moved off that, but they're focusing on the 5G internet and, of course, airplane offerings. The lags on this behind the market, of course, when it comes to the actual production, they've been about 6.6% total return in 2024. But and on top of that, they raised their dividends again to a 6.3%. So we're starting to climb up that dividend ladder to 6.3 with AT&T, which is a sign that they are sustained and they are ready for growth. And of course, very similar to AT&T, we have Verizon Communications. They are yielding the exact same 6.3% dividend yield. And I don't know if it's just these two telecommunication giants that are just go ahead and chasing themselves, but Verizon Communications is VZ is the ticker symbol. So very similar to AT&T, massive and entrenched in businesses. And of course, that telecommunication space. It is slightly lower debt burden, which is something to remember. So they are carrying less debt than AT&T, and they have a much better credit rating than AT&T, which is the reason why a lot of people would actually buy up Verizon before they would look at AT&T, which again, with the restructuring of AT&T in 2022, we're going to have to see exactly what that looks like. Then we get into the Healthpeak Properties, which comes in at number 2. Now, of course, this is leading the healthcare real estate. So you'll notice 3 of the companies on here that are really paying a high dividend within the S&P 500 are real estate companies. Now, of course, this is because they have monthly income, which of course can be generated back to the shareholders of this. Now, the company combines or owns and operates a diverse portfolio of healthcare real estate, which includes medical office buildings, lab space, retirement communities, and similar products like this. Now, of course, they also do have heavy investments into high-tech stocks rather than rich yield payoffs, which again, for the long haul, if you're looking to chase dividends, Healthpeak Properties, the DOC is the ticker symbol on this one at a 6.6%. And then, of course, we have the king of dividends coming in at number 1 as the Altria Group, which is MO. Now, this is the highest paying dividend stock within the S&P 500. And it says this is one of the long time, this is one of the leaders, which of course is a tobacco company. Now, of course, they have the iconic brands like Marlboro, they have Black & Mild, they have cigar products, now they have smokeless products, Copenhagen, they have Skoal, they have Enjoy e-cigarettes, Helix, oral nicotine pouches, pretty much everything when it comes to the tobacco space, whether it is smoking or non-smoking, they are in. It is considered a sin stock, meaning that they are giving a lot of dividends back. And of course, when it is kind of crazy, they have a massive current yield, and the stock has logged 55 years of dividend increase, which is insane, guys. When you think about the time invested into the S&P 500, if you're saying there has been a 55 consecutive years of dividends increased, which is kind of crazy to think over time, this brings the dividend yield of this coming in at number 1 at an 8.8% dividend yield. That is right, guys. You are getting paid almost a 9% dividend yield for holding this company, which again is kind of crazy. Now, of course, do your research on all of these companies, know exactly what they're invested in, what the 3, 5, probably 10-year plan looks like before you're in here, because dividends, even though I love them, a lot of people know that we might not see the growth of the dividends that we do see, or not the dividends themselves, but the growth of the stocks themselves. So let me know what you guys think about the highest paying dividends within that S&P 500, and I'll catch you in the next video.